That's it. The officials don't do their job. They don't do their job.
Well, they have their way of doing their job, but so the other ones have others. So again, there's no
consistency.
There is no consistency. We are still. You can't even blame VAR anymore. You can't even because it seems to be they're the ones that have the ultimate decision.
That's true. Referees are just there as like figureheads. VAR, the real decision maker.
Well, they sent off Kudus, and I think that was the right thing. But they also sent off bloody what's his name? They sent off Saliba. They gave Man City the goal, but at the same time, they did chalk off the second penalty for Liverpool.
True.
So maybe, well, we'll save it.
On that note, welcome to another episode of One Kick from Glory. We are discussing this weekend's games. A lot's happened. It's been very controversial. We've got a lot to talk about. We are not happy with the referees. We're not happy with VAR. And what was Howard Webb doing at the Bournemouth match? Who was he talking to? Was he influencing, or was he just a casual bystander? We don't know, but we're going to find out. It's me and Matthew here today.
Yes.
And we're going to discuss the big incidents of this weekend and all the nice talking points as well. It really has been a weekend of inconsistencies up and down the Premier League. And I think we've got a number of games that we want to highlight of where things have just been all over the gaff. I want to start off looking at the game between Tottenham and West Ham. Crazy. Matthew, what have you seen in that match thinking in terms of like, this is the Premier League, it's one of the richest leagues in the world, one of the best, most entertainment leagues in the world, and yet we're still struggling to get VAR right.
Man, that game was that for a split moment in that game. For those of you seeing it, could have had a moment of absolute madness. It started off well because he actually gave them a lead in the first half. They get themselves a good goal. They're looking threatening, and Spurs come back a little bit, but they're still kind of in the game. And in the next half, it just all goes to pot, and he just gets. The rule in football is the hands to the face is a big fat dirty no. He didn't just do it once. The guy did it twice. He sends Van der Beek to the floor. He then puts it right in Saha's thing and not Saha's thing, and he's like that. And and then Richarlison feels like he's missing out, so he runs into Kudus to get himself be like this, and he's just come back from injury.
It felt like a WWE moment in football.
It really did. It felt like Eddie Guerrero lied, cheat, and steal. Man, shout out to Eddie Guerrero right there. He would have been proud of that. Probably not. I don't know, but it was just seemed mad because at first he's just given it, but both him and Van were given a yellow card. But it's like the fan in the face. That's twice. It's like that is so blatantly a red card because that's even for one of them, let alone two of them. And it took for VAR to come and turn around and be like almost like as if he's taken over the game, which I didn't know was a thing. I thought the referee was the guy there was there. He had the ultimate decision, but turns out I may be wrong because this wasn't the only game where VAR came in and didn't just assist; they flat out took over. But it's in a way where we were complaining about VAR, but at the same time, it's there kind of like saving the bacon, being a little bit, being like, actually, no, that's the wrong one there, guys. You got to do it right. But that wasn't it. But it hit the initial heat because it turned out into a whole lot of brawl. All these players were beefing. Wan-Bissaka was going in there. Thingy was going in there. It was actually mad. So, but they've got to fix it. Things like that are like no-brainers. That's got nothing necessarily to do with VAR. Hand in the face is straight up like you are gone. So how it took so long, I have no idea.
Do you feel like we've reached the point where referees are not refereeing anymore? Because I know there was a massive conversation in the beginning of the season about how VAR was not going to re-ref refereeing decisions. It feels like this international break we've just had has happened, and then we've come into this weekend and we've seen in several games the referees made the decision. VAR's come in time to change it. In the Arsenal game, we saw Saliba's yellow become a red. In the Man City game, we saw a goal given as an offside goal reversed into a goal. It's in those controversial decisions. Do you feel like referees now need to get into a place where they actually just referee the games?
I think it's down to the fact that we've been complaining about VAR for so long, ever since it's been introduced, particularly in the Premier League, because it has not been working properly, or it's down to the people that are using it. Maybe they're trying to make an impression, a point that it can work, and they're trying so hard to be like, we're going to be much more even with our decisions. So let's just make an example and overturn certain things that we deem necessary, like the Saliba, the Kudus, and the big one being Man City, were three big examples of them turning around and being like VAR saying it's something different. Even in other games I haven't mentioned, the Liverpool-Chelsea game, the Southampton and
Leicester
game, another one there. where the inconsistency were there, but VAR came and turned around. It could be a case of where they're trying to make an example that it shows that it can work and not just work, but work quickly, which was one of the many complaints from last season. But you don't want to get to a point where the man on the thing who's got fresh eyes there and then, all right, he's going to make a mistake because he doesn't have that 360 bird's eye view that we do see from a screen. But at the end of the day, it's like, you want to collaborate with his decision and, allow him to take charge of certain thing of the game, because the problem with that is, yes, the technology is there, it's been used and it's been used well. The other side is that it's that feeling of a goal goes in and you don't know, and it's been 5 minutes and, the tension's building. Sometimes you get a bit bored and it goes, oh yeah, it's a goal, whatever. You take away from that instantaneous moment of, oh yeah, it's a goal, let's go on. Because at any moment, it can just change. At any moment. You also see that now, because I was watching this morning on Sky Sports News, this whole thing of ref watch, which I'm gathering has been around for a lot more. But they're getting way more in depth now with what these decisions are, having proper debates about, is the referee the guy still the guy to, kind of rely on, and probably getting proper deep and sometimes real heat conversation as well.
I feel like that show has a way of almost legitimizing their incompetence, because in Japan they have a similar thing where they literally review. I think it might be on YouTube, but it's also on the television network over there. But they will review the weekend's matches and the talking points, but not so a case of, oh, this incident happened, what do you think? It's more like they highlight all the mistakes the referees made, and they say, okay, look, these mistakes happen in these big high-profile games. What did the referee do wrong? What we're going to do next to make it better? And it's the people that are on it are the head of the referees, the referee that was in charge of that weekend who made that mistake, or one of the referees from that weekend, and then the heads of the league. So it's not like some just. I know that with Sky Sports they got, Howard does the one, they have Gallagher does his one as well.
He was the one that was on this.
But I just feel like it's not really leading to improvement. The one in Japan, they're like, oh, this is what happened in the instance. Okay, these mistakes happen. The referee knows he made a mistake in that call. And then they'll explain, oh, this is why the referee gave this decision. This is what they were looking for. This is what they saw. And I feel like as a fan, you feel more involved. And actually, there's an ongoing process to improve things. Whereas in England, everything was like entertainment. Like whenever Howard Webb comes out and says stuff, and Derek McGallagher, I just feel like they will say one thing one week, the next week the same thing happens. Even the way, let's talk about that Arsenal incident, right? And we're comparing it with the incident that happened in the Chelsea-Liverpool game. So Trossard has a bad back pass towards Saliba, goes over his head. Evan Nilsson spins on the halfway line. Saliba pulls him back. Foul. Referee gives a yellow card. VAR calls him to the monitor. Upgrades to red card, right?
Yeah.
Denying a clear goal opportunity. That's what they said. Flip forward to the Liverpool game. Ball played in behind. Tosin Adebayo and Darwin Núñez tangle on the centre circle, basically. Same area of the pitch, same distance to goal. Yellow card given, no VR interference. Now, for me, if they were both given as a straight red, I'd have no issues with it. The fact that they're both yellows to start off with, one gets upgraded, the other one doesn't even get reviewed, that's a problem for me. And I don't know how you can call that a clear goal scoring opportunity from the halfway line when you got so much saw to cover, which is clearly what they said in the Liverpool game. But yet, in the Bournemouth game, that's not the case. And on both occasions, you had a defender coming around the corner. So White was coming around the corner in the Arsenal match. You had James come around the corner in the Chelsea match, right? So same weekend, same day, day after, the same incident in two separate matches, different outcome. Yep. And that to me is the problem of this league. The fact that you can see situations like that, even the Wolves game, foul on the goalkeeper. They had a similar incident last season. Ball whipped in. I think one of their defenders was marking Fabianski. Kilman scores a header when he was a Wolves player, now he's a West Ham player. Funny that. Gets given as a foul on the goalkeeper. Now, admittedly, the Wolves player was a bit close to the goalkeeper. The game they played against Man City, corner gets whipped in by Foden. Bernardo Silva, before the corner's taken, is pushing sides, on sides, barking at him.
Yeah.
As soon as the ball gets clipped in by Foden, he dips off to the right of the goalkeeper. John Stones, as he is, Mr. Clutch, powers in the header. Can't argue with that. Great goal. But how can you not claim that the player's not interfering with the goalkeeper? How?
You said it yourself, man. Entertainment. You said it yourself. The way that they do things in Japan is much more boom, boom, regiment sort of thing where you made a mistake, you're going to be, we're going to point out to you that you've got this wrong and how you're going to do it better, and how I no make sure you don't do it again. It seems to me that I don't know much about the whole thing in Japanese football, but it could be down to the fact that there's a bit more of a respect or authority when it comes to where football in football, whereas over here in this part of the world, we've got access to information and social media. A lot of these referees might have, social media and messages and things like that. And a lot of fans get very, very invested into the whole thing of like, you ruined the game. Blah, blah, blah. Even from games years before, that people are still going on about, oh, I can't believe this moment, whereas like 20 years ago, come on, mate, it's not going to change, sort of thing. I just think the culture of officiating here to probably other parts of the world, it's just so different, because the referees, you get the impression that some of them, not all of them, but some of them want to be part of the action, which is weird, because there was a point where the standard of officiating was just that high. It was one of the best in the league. We're talking, funny enough, like we were talking about, reminiscing about the Barclays Man era. That was when, all right, they may have had the odd mistake, and maybe the same thing of Fergie time, but it was still much more consistent without the technology back then. A few glaring mistakes, obviously. Whereas with now, the way that culture of football has, changed. It's some of them, like, saying like with Mike Dean, which there is some suspicion there, wanted to be a part of the action. You call it the Michael Massey syndrome. Remember that season of F1 where it was all going and he won? It was him one that changed the decision. Now we're doing Michael Massey every flaming weekend. Now it's every weekend, looking at F1 thinking, why? He did it for one whole season. Let's do it every week. Let's get it wrong here, get it right there. Which, all right, fine. You learn from your mistakes, but where is the consistency? If it's red card here, if it's red card there, I can go ahead and complain about that, but at least then I'm seeing a pattern of consistency. The fans are always, with a referee, you're always going to upset a certain group of fans. You're always going to, and that's just, fans can be upset and angry, but they don't necessarily deserve the hate, the death threats. That's when it gets too far. But as with football, you run that risk of doing things like that, and there are a lot of footballers this weekend doing things. They're running that risk in the penalty box of all places. Yep. The Southampton one, both the shirt pulls were in the penalty box. Only one got a penalty and only one got sent off. So you have to be willing to, be that guy. I know you're in a home crowd and you feel that pressure sometimes, but you, for the sake of the game, don't be that guy. Don't be that, that movie twist villain or whatever it is. No, do your job. That's what you're there to do. Do your job.
Speaking of doing your job, I think Gary O'Neill made a really great point in the post-match interview, and just on his comments on the refereeing performance in the match. And I think it's something which we see it in terms of how teams approach these matches, but I do wonder about the officials' way. And it's not about accusing them of any kind of like corruption, but biases exist in life. It's a thing we know, and we have to do a lot of work to kind of unlearn stuff, to sort of look at things on a more measured, open perspective. But do you think Man City are ref differently compared to other teams? Because we know that teams, when it comes down to matches, you think about how a team will play against Man City, how they'll play against Liverpool, how they'll play against Chelsea, play against Man United. It's very different. Some teams will give their utmost effort to get a point against the other teams. But when it comes to Man City, they will just part like the Red Sea and say, come on in. How many goals do you want this week? You got 3 points guaranteed. Don't worry about it. Just rack up a cricket score and away you go.
They certainly get a bit more grace. They get a bit more grace. And I think that's always been a case in the Premier League. I mean, before it was their noisy red neighbours beforehand. That was called Fergie time. You could call this Guardiola's watch for all I care, because the shift and balance. And sometimes when you're successful and you're good, you're good at what you do, you don't just go with the rule book that is there. You look at the rule book and what you're able to do. And the best, really successful people in any sport, they don't just look at the rule book and go with it verbatim. They'll look at that rule book and they will try and push the limits of what that rule book can do. So they will look at it, say, even if it's a case of, it might be saying something that you can't do this, but it didn't say you couldn't do that, sort of thing. And that creates that kind of culture of not cheating, but cunning. And cunning comes with a side of a bit of manipulativeness and manipulation about it, and it makes it easier for you to in the eyes of the FA at least, have a more favourable view, because at the end of the day, you're the most successful club in England at the moment. You're winning all the trophies. You've got a manager who's won all around. Hell, you got a manager who had this at Barcelona when he was manager.
Right.
You called it UEFA. I'm still going to call it UEFA Lona. You know, you can't polish doo-doo. It's UEFA Lona, UEFA Madrid. You know, this isn't just an England problem. This is like sometimes even a football problem where certain clubs get that grace purely by who they are, what they're willing to do to win, which, okay, I guess is fine if you want to win. But what it does do is it takes away from the actual morals and the spirit of the football game itself. Something that a lot of clubs don't. You're not going to get this with Wolves. You're not going to get this with a Leicester, a Fulham. You're barely going to get it with a team like Aston Villa. And you can argue Aston Villa have more of a stake in history than Manchester City do.
That's true.
So certain teams have that cachet, that favourable kind of view where more people are willing to turn a blind eye. They're currently on for 115 charges, but for every time they do really, really well and talk about Pep's greatness, they'll talk about that more against some charges. And when it comes to those charges, when the way they talk about the club, it's almost as if it's quite sympathetic towards. It's like they feel sorry for the fact they've been caught in this predicament, despite the fact they've done this predicament themselves, where teams like Leicester, teams like Everton, and teams like Forest, again, three more teams that have a bit more of a historical hold on football, it's like, it happened, boom, there it is.
Yeah.
Where's the love? Where's the sympathy? Where's the kind of rose-tinted spectacle? Again, I'm not hating on the club. I'm not hating, you know. Well,
I don't like Man City.
Well, that's not true. No one likes Man City.
Exactly.
Even Man City fans don't like Man City, but they like Haaland. But yeah, like they have this. It's like being like, you know, when you're the golden child and you cannot almost do no wrong, and all their players get really protected, sort of thing. So at the moment, that's them. Beforehand, it was Liverpool, and before then, it was even Man United. You know, certain clubs, they have this hold, you know, over the FA. Let's not forget, they're also making the FA lots of money.
They are.
They are making lots of money. And that sometimes, I'm just saying.
But it is going to come to a head with this court case of these 115 charges, and we'll see what the outcome is in March. I think the Premier League need to sort of, whatever the verdict is, whether they're found guilty or innocent, I think just in the interim, I feel like other football teams need to stand up and try more. We saw the last game week when Fulham had a chance to get more out of that match and sort of capitulated. Wolves, you know, they went 1-0 up, weren't able to hold on. But I think they're right to feel aggrieved because, you know, you can argue it's clever play by Bernardo Silva leaning on the goalkeeper for that long. But at the end of the day, like, it's obstructing him. And I know that, you know, Ben Foster's come out and said, I didn't think it was a foul. Well, no, Tim Howard, come out and said he didn't think it was a foul. Should have just, Jose Sarr should have done more and done better in that situation. But at the end of the day, I think Wolves players, there should have been a defender back there to kind of help the keeper out more. But it's just a horrible way to lose a match.
Yeah, it gives a bad taste in the mouth.
Especially against them.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's them. It is them, and it would if it was say like
If it was an Everton.
It
It would have been like, that's all right. They're kind of bouncing back.
even or a Villa,
Yeah.
or a Villa where that's a hard fought game. It was like, all right, cool, that's how you do, but it's just them.
And then Man City were crap as well. They played crap in the game. They were rubbish in that match, but then they still got the 3 points, which is, I guess, is the mark of champions or cheats, a mark of champions, and you know that's sort of what matters, and that's why they have won 4 in a row, and they're chasing number 5. And it's why, as a conglomerate, the Premier League, the teams need to step up and stop that from happening. Because if Man City do 5 in a row, Man United fans, I don't know what to say to you, but it ain't gonna look good. Tottenham fans, what more needs to be said about you lot? And the rest of us, you know, it's not gonna look good. It won't look good at all. Let's talk about your game, your big match against Liverpool at Anfield. Nicholas Jackson again, showing that he really has got a knack for getting good goals. But again, as has been the case throughout this whole season and the back end of last season, goalkeeping department and the defense is not looking its strongest. But let's start on the positives. How good is Nicholas Jackson and his I think growing into the number 9 role post John Obi Mikel's strong criticism of him.
He listened, and I think he listened good, but I think he's listened in a way of professionalism rather than being personal. And I think even he realised, even from last season, which he had a very good goal return from last season, but if he just remained onside more, if he was just a little bit more focused and watching those lines just a little bit better and realised, like, he can go. Like the West Ham game, that was exactly that. He was able to cut through those lines, brush off defenders, and just find the goal really, really well and have a really good finish. He's certainly maturing a lot more in the Premier League from last year. He's on track to probably equal or maybe even beat the goal tally he had as well. So I'm impressed. You know what? It's one of those. I say it a lot. I didn't feel too disheartened yesterday because we tried. We pushed them. We genuinely did push them for the most part. Going to Anfield is not an easy thing, but we pushed them. And, we got that good chance. And we had other chances where we were able to get more competitive to the game. Palmer had chances. Nicholas Jackson had other chances. Pedro Neto had a couple. But we were positive about it. It was like a positive defeat where we're always thinking of how we're bombing forward as many times as we can to try and get that in the back of the net. So I'm disappointed, not so much in the performance, but the result. But, I am disappointed in that second goal more than anything because it was just a comedy of errors between the defense and the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper, like if that's me, I'm doing my best to at least come out and try and claim it because if I do, Curtis Jones doesn't have the freedom to leave the defense and do what he could. Because the moment he got that ball, that was it. You knew exactly what's going to happen. Defense, yes, I get they're trying to keep their line, but he had just enough room where they weren't paying attention to him, but he's able to go and get that move. And Sanchez, well, he sprawls out, but it's luck of a draw. It's either he saves it or he doesn't. Speaking of Sanchez, though, he's just
not feeling him at all.
He's not. I've said before, he's not sturdy.
Yeah,
I don't think he's a very sturdy guy. Where not so much the penalty because penalty's a penalty, but even the one where he nearly gave another one, he gets the ball, but he makes an absolute Horlicks and a meal of it. He makes it look a lot more complicated than it needs to be, which otherwise sullies, a half decent performance. Caicedo still did really well. Good to see Reece James back. Good to see the options, so many options coming up to try and make a difference while still maintaining that consistent amount of pressure, still maintaining it, which shows that, all right, we lost the game. So if this was a Poch game from last year, anything could have happened. He could have played any team. Whereas at least with Enzo, you can see when he's putting these players on, they're still framing into the system that he wants,
which is great.
Which is kind of something that I can take. Where it's like, all right, we lost, but every time someone came on, they're doing the exact same thing. Sometimes that's half the battle. And another day, we probably I predicted the draw anyway. I predicted the draw last time. And I genuinely thought when we got that goal in, all right, let's go in, let's try and get another one or try and hold it. I don't know. But hey, look, we move on. I'm not too disappointed in the guys, but he got to sort out that. If he's having faith in Sanchez as his goalkeeper, he's got to they got to change something in them goalkeeping sessions because it's working, but barely.
If you were to move on from Sanchez, what would you do in terms of like business? Would you do something in January? Would you wait to end the season, see how Petrovic's loan went out, and then work it out from there?
Considering how many goalkeepers we have, I don't necessarily think of buying someone else. And if you did want to buy someone, who would it be? All of the top ranking keepers, your Edisons, your Addisons, your Ryers and things like that. They're all tied up in super contracts. They're also competing, all three at least keep competing for the Premier League. They're not going to drop down to a team that could probably win the league within the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Controversially, I was looking at maybe someone like, Ramsdale's decent.
Yeah.
He's just in a really rubbish defence. But you found out when you took him from Bournemouth, he actually performed really well. Hell, you nearly won the league with him.
That's true.
And you were leading the table with him. So with a half-decent defence in front of him, he can be effective. I like Dean Henderson. I mean, he's not having a good time at Palace, but he did have a good time at Sheffield United. He's good. He's young. He's a little bit more confident, I believe, sometimes Sanchez is. Plus, he's playing as of recording right now, so you never know. Petrovic, let's see how his loan goes. It could even be a case of loaning back Special K. get his revenge tour, redemption, get some redemption. Maybe underneath Maresca with a defense, he may have a bit more of a command over it. You know, he's got a young defense in front of him. Maybe it might inspire him to be a little bit more commanding. If sometimes a good defense can make a really good keeper. You see the greats over the years, Seaman, Schmeichel, Van der Sar, Czech. You know, good one.
But with all
Yeah.
those examples, they all had great defenders in
They
front of
all had great defenders in front of him, and that's the thing. But look, I'm not calling for his head to be chopped, but I am questioning it.
them. Yeah.
Next game, Newcastle. Let's see how and it's a home game. Let's see how that goes because we got you guys very soon.
Do you think she should have done more with the second goal from Curtis Jones?
Definitely,
Yeah.
because I would have. That's me. I'm at least making the attempt to go and get the ball, even if it's a case where I get as like a fingertip or a punch, like to it. That's me commanding the box because when you see for the most part, when you see the goalkeeper coming out, it's very rarely you see the other players try to attack it. It's because he didn't move, and it wasn't as if it was a fast ball coming in. It was quite a good speed for where the keeper could at least come and jump and sprawl his body all over it and just claim it like that. So that negates that problem because Curtis Jones was the only one that was moving. Everyone else literally was.
Decoy's on the edge of the box. Yeah.
Yeah.
Decoy's running in, or the edge of the box, and then he ran from deep.
He ran from deep. No one knew where he was. To be fair, neither did I, and so I saw it. But commanding keepers like a Czech or even like say a Mendy. One thing that Mendy was good at was commanding that box, jumping out and coming and skate straight away. So he needs to work on being that little bit more. Trusting his defense, which in turn lead them, the players trusting the keeper, come out and claim it.
Speaking of Mendy, briefly, what do you think caused his form to just nosedive post the AFCON win? Because he was clearly in the conversation of Ballon d'Or, and I think he rightly felt aggrieved not to get rated higher up in that conversation that season.
In that year, he got rated behind Donnarumma.
Yeah.
Which you can argue. A lot of people saying like, hang on, didn't he when he won AFCON? He also won the Champions League.
Yeah, and Italy won Euros.
Italy did win the Euros, but he also won the Club World Cup. He won the Super Cup. He, in terms of being an effective keeper, because we have to remember when he came, before he came in, Kepa was number one. We had Lampard was manager. We were ninth in the table.
He was shambolic.
He comes in. We get to 2 finals, and we finish in the top 4, as well as the exploits he had for his country. So I don't know. Maybe he just lost his head, lost his focus. Maybe he got to a point where he was happy where he was because his trajectory was similar to Czech's. He was from Rennes. Czech actually gave the thing like, you got this keeper here. He's real good. I think we played a game where we played against him, and then before you know it, we signed him because he's one of those players where he came along with Chilwell. He came along with Silva. He came along with Werner and Havertz, where we just go and spin all these players, and then it didn't work. We've ended up being ninth, but then Tuchel comes in and brings them back up, sort of thing. I just think it got to him a bit too quick. He won too much in a very short space of time. I think the difference between maybe him and Czech is that the pressure got more to him than it did to maybe Czech, and maybe there was more of an expectation on someone like Mendy. But he's off at Saudi doing what he's happy out there. So it's a shame because you know what? If he kept on, he probably could have been the best keeper in the league. Wow. Could have been. Oh, he had the stone. He had the makings of it. He really, really did. But sometimes it just doesn't work out.
True. Sometimes you get to those points where you don't quite make it all the way in what you should be able to achieve as a player, and sometimes results don't go your way. That was definitely the case for Arsenal against Bournemouth. Like I said, the silly red card given earlier in the game. But I think performance-wise, we're not at the races at all. I think team selection, definitely one where I think the manager overthought it. Not starting Jesus, playing Sterling on the right, probably could have played him on the left. Playing Marino, Partey, and Rice in the midfield 3. I think it's probably too many similar midfielders compared to what we could have done. We could have given Ethan a start. Could have kept Trossard in there. Had like Jesus on one side, starting on the other side with Havertz, and get all 3 to rotate around, and we'll get all 4 to rotate positions and then confuse the opposition. There's a lot we could have done that would have been more bolder. But and then Kivior coming on off the bench didn't really looked very shaky. Gave away the back pass for the second goal, which was a penalty for the second goal. So definitely not his finest hour, not our best performance in a long time. Just overall, just not really a good game for Arsenal. For you, what do you think in terms of like? Do you think it's just one of those games you just kind of chalk up to just a blip, nothing to think about, or do you think that some of those selection things might kind of be a bit of an issue longer term, like Jesus not starting and that midfield three probably not being the best balance for a game like this?
I mean, with Jesus, you're gonna have to start making use of him at some point, because he is your striker, and striker. Has he scored yet this season? He hasn't scored, and it's now October, the season starting thing, and this loss is you were one of the last teams to not have an unbeaten record in the Premier League. Your main title rivals, both your title rivals, when they got a win in their games. You've got your striker there. You're in this position before when you had Aubameyang and you weren't playing him. Obviously, the circumstances are a little bit different. He clearly wants, Jesus in the team. He doesn't necessarily start, but if you want to start, you win trophies when your strikers are firing goals, and it's got to be a position where I'm not saying Bournemouth are a terrible team. They're clearly not, but it would have been a good confidence booster, like with Martinelli against Southampton, to put a guy like him on and just see what he can, just see what kind of mess he can make in front of goal. What you need, sometimes, like you said, it was overcomplicated. The solution's so simple. You got a striker there, put on, sometimes that one goal can see all the confidence in the world can just kind of fly out of him. If you get a poor result in the next game, I'll start worrying, because it's getting to that more. We're now very slowly approaching Christmas time. And that's when the game schedule gets real jammed, real quick. You've still got to do Champions League with the whole new format, plus FA Cup eventually coming up, plus with Carabao Cup also coming up. It's not getting any less calm anytime soon. If anything, it's going to be getting more and more and more. You got to start utilising that squad, as best as you can. That's what City do really well, and other teams really do really well, and you can do really well. It just depends on who you're playing and who's in front of you. Obviously, look, if you're playing like someone like, say, I don't know, a Villa, a Spurs, or Chelsea or something like that, I would get it. But against a team like Bournemouth, which, you can argue where you can be a little bit more risky, a little bit more aggressive in your play, because as good as they are, they don't like, especially at home, they can be quite tricky. You can afford to be that little bit more risky because you've got the firepower to do it. Then do it. It's those kind of games where look at Man City on Sunday. They weren't very good, but it's because they're so used to it. They know how to find a way, and that a mark of a good championship winning team is winning when you're not very good. And for all sense of purposes, that's what you needed on the day. You needed to win even when you weren't at your best. Get Sterling now scoring, get Jesus scoring. All right, Saka's not there. Who's going to now step up to the plate a little bit, but who are you playing next?
Well, we've got Champions League game, Shakhtar Donetsk, midweek. And then we have the big one, Liverpool at home on the weekend, on Sunday.
You're playing at the Emirates.
At the Emirates.
You need, that will be...
Big match.
Big match. If anything, it'll probably be tougher than the Man City game, because Liverpool just are even under slot right now. They are annoyingly consistent. All right, They had that poor game against Nottingham Forest, but they've won literally every other game they've played. Annoyingly consistent. Plus their usual battering of Man United. So, yeah, that's going to be a big one.
It's a big one, and we're going to need to find that consistency in performance.
You're going to need to, because if you play like that against them, they're going to have fun.
That's true. And I feel like I'm glad we have the midweek Champions League game coming up. Well, it will be today or yesterday, depending when you're hearing this. But that'll be good to see that match and see how we respond. That's another game at home as well. I think the fans need it, the players need it. Just get a quick bounce, quick 3 points, move on. And I think get some goals shared around as well. Like, I'd like to see Jesus break his duck for the season. I'd like to see Havertz get back in that scoring groove again. I'd like to see one of the midfielders adding onto that. I'd like Sterling to get another goal. And if Ethan gets minutes, I'd like him to get another goal. I just want to see goals spread around, and I want to see some good stuff at the back. Saliba will probably start, and then probably second half at some point, he'll probably switch to the back four. That'll play against Liverpool. So we'll see how they work together. Goals. And if Kivior comes in, I want to see a bit more assuredness, like he was at the back end of the first season when we had the title run, and then Rob Holding came in, and we all know about that situation. And obviously he doesn't get minutes for Crystal Palace at all, so there's enough said about that. So I just want to see that assured performances from Kivior. Even last year when he was at left back, he was locking it down for a long time. He had 2 or 3 rough games, and then people's sentiment about him changed. But he's a good defender there. He just needs a good run of games to kind of recalibrate himself and just remember, one, like you're a very important player for your national team. Two, you're playing for a massive club and there's big expectations here, and you've been brought in for a reason. You're not just a bit part player. You need to now start making a statement to say, look, I want to take someone's shirt.
I'm the man.
I'm here to take someone's shirt. So that's what I want to see from him. And I want to see a strong performance because we're going to need it, because this title race, it's not over by any means, but you need to start, Arsenal have had 3 red cards this season, 3 stupid red cards. And 3 red cards which we've not seen repeated in any other match this season as well, which in and of itself says everything. It says everything that we've not seen the same situation played out in other matches and they've not had the same outcome.
Yeah.
But Arsenal have 3 red cards, 2 double yellows and 1 yellow turned red. So
Make it make sense.
make it make sense. Make it make sense. So hopefully we bounce back. You guys as well. Hopefully you guys get a strong result. Who have you got the weekend?
Newcastle
How do you see that one going? Home or away?
home.
Oh, bridge.
I think we can bounce back from that because there was enough in that performance against Liverpool to give me hope, give me confidence that at least, they're all right. You're not going to win all of them. We're clearly not going to be winning every single game that we play against. But from where we were last season, all right, we've only lost 2, we've drawn 2. But when we've played, and it's just so good to see that there's some kind of system in play, a plan in play. Enzo's clearly works really hard to instill that in all the players. So when they all come on, we've got a very big squad. So, and there are a lot of players are getting a chance. When they are getting a chance, they're playing the way that he wants to play. So that when you do, even when you're coming on against Liverpool and you're 2-1 down, you're not just quitting. You're going with what you know, and you're making it hard for a team. And we'll go to Anfield at this point. Coming off a frustrating result against Forest. So look, so. I think we can do them. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
It will not be easy. But I think we can get. I think we'll take them. A nice little 2, maybe 3-1, even if they score first.
Well, it's going to be a big one, and we'll see how it goes. Lots of big games coming this weekend. We'll start off with our predictions for this one. The Nottingham Forest Crystal Palace is currently 0-0, so we'll see how that. We'll all know how it's ended if you're watching this or listening to this, so you know how that went for them. Friday kicks off Leicester versus Nottingham Forest. Leicester at home. How do you see them going?
Ooh, it's a derby match as well.
Big derby match.
It is a derby match. I'm going to go with a Leicester win. Let's go 2-0 Leicester win.
I'm going to say Forest will win it, 2-1 away win. Aston Villa versus Bournemouth on Saturday.
Oh. Villa could be quite chaotic at times.
Very.
They've got the chaos in them. They're like...
Just when you've got players like John Duran who can just pull out a wonder shot from anywhere and everywhere. And also they'll have Champions League as well in midweek.
This is going to be this will be like Ipswich. This will be another draw. 1-1.
I think Villa will nick it away at home rather. Brentford versus Ipswich.
Ipswich need to start doing something. They're letting me down. I'm still going to have belief in them. I think they've got something in them. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 Ipswich.
2-1 Ipswich. I'm going to say 2-1 Brentford. Brighton versus Wolves.
So close to getting that win. I just don't think it's going to happen against Brighton. Going with 2-0 Brighton.
Their last match last season was 0-0. I'm going to go for a draw. 2-2 draw. Maybe Wolves might nick it late on. Man City versus Southampton.
Damn it.
Pretty self-explanatory.
I mean, they've struggled against, it seems to be against the lower teams. They seem to find it a little bit less straightforward, but this will be fairly straightforward. 4-0.
4-0. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think
they're going to get a lesson in what it means to play out the back. Southampton are going to watch the best at doing it.
I would like to be surprised, but I'm going to say 3-1. Southampton will score a goal, maybe the equaliser, and then Man City will blitz them. Everton versus Fulham.
Everton are starting to turn it around. They're starting to turn it around. I'm going to go for a draw. 2-2.
2-2 draw. I'm going to go for because they won last match, didn't they, against Ipswich? I'm going to give Everton the win. They'll carry on. Momentum will building. I think it's time for them to build. You've already talked about Chelsea, Newcastle. What's your call? What's your take on that one?
That's going to be a 2-1.
2-1 Chelsea. Yeah, I see that as a home win as well. I think Newcastle have been a bit of rocky form right now, so I think because they lost against Brighton last match, yeah, I'm gonna call it Chelsea win, maybe a 2-1, maybe a 3-1. Crystal Palace versus Spurs.
Spurs look good against West Ham. That changed when they changed at half time. They look good. Son's goal was good. Classic step over. But I want Palace to get something, but I don't think they're going to. I'm going for 2-1 Spurs.
2-1 Spurs. You know me, I really struggle with backing that team, but
Same here.
yeah, I think let's call it a draw. 2-2 draw. Why not? West Ham versus Man United.
They've got that annoying thing out. See, the only Man United can do there what they did like against Brentford. The only team that can do that. West Ham, right?
Yeah.
At the West Ham Stadium.
West Ham, London Stadium, yeah.
Funny thing is, against Spurs, like, the first half, they're actually pretty good. So I don't think this is going to be straightforward. I think this is going to be another woe. I'm going for a 2-0 West Ham.
2-0 West Ham. I think Man United on the road, they won against Brentford last match. I think they will, I think they'll carry on with that vein. Their last 3 games against West Ham, they've beat them 3-0, they've lost 2-0 and lost 1-0. I'm going to back Man United. I'm going to say it's going to be a 2-1 win. Arsenal, Liverpool. Our last few games, we beat them 3-1 at home last season. We drew 1-1 at Anfield, and then we drew 2-2 at Anfield in the previous season. I'm going to back my team. I think we need to have a strong performance against. I think it's going to be a very hard game. I think Liverpool will definitely score. And I think Arsenal have to get out the blocks really well and have to get a lot of shots off. So I'm going to call it a 2-1. If not a 2-1, it'll be a 2-2 draw. And if not a 2-2 draw, I'm going to back a last-minute 3-2 win.
I'm going to go for 1-0 Liverpool. Sneaky, like just Salah something or other. It's going to be a tough one.
Well, we're going to find out how it goes on the weekend. It's lots to play for. It's been tough. It's been a great, exciting season so far. I think the good thing is that we're seeing teams develop quite well from the previous year. We're seeing teams at Man United still struggling to find out what they are trying to do, but all it takes is a couple game weeks, a couple good results, and things are bouncing back. Everton are on the climb. Wolves have been bitterly unlucky. Will their luck finally turn in their favour this weekend? Will Chelsea get that win to bounce back after the disappointing defeat? Will Arsenal kickstart or continue the charge for the title against Man City? Will Southampton do the almost impossible and take 3 points off them? Who knows?
They never.
Will Spurs win again?
Hopefully not.
Find out the next episode. Peace.
Peace.